I'm squared. Okay, I'm squared. All right. Did I jump through something? Excuse me a minute. Something gotten out of. I've got something totally out of sync here. Bear with me a second. One minute. Okay. Well, I'm jumping ahead. The slides that I'm supposed to start on will probably come up in a couple. I'll have to go backwards. This is not the first slide, but it's in the deck. So what we're going to talk about tonight, this is my favorite topic, but I enjoy getting into the, obviously the scientific and the technical stuff. So tonight is it's going to be a little bit more challenging. It's going to force you to think outside the box a little bit, to kind of get your head around some things that we probably don't spend a lot of time talking about. We don't spend a lot of time thinking about. But when you do think about it, it does in fact answer a lot of the questions that you're going to have when you're talking about theology in all aspects. We spent like 6 weeks or 7 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever, going over the history of the denominations and what split them. And then we spent another 3 or 4 weeks talking about the scriptural reasons and the examples and so forth of why things split, because people thought this and thought that. And unfortunately, because the Bible is not 100% strict down the line, you can interpret things different ways, looking at it different ways. That's why some intelligent people, very smart people, have gone this way, others have gone that way. Hopefully, the things that they're splitting on are not salvational issues. So we certainly have an opportunity to see our brothers and sisters in all eternity. But why the split? Why is these things? And having said salvational, Nancy asked me a question, which means I need to repeat this again. Remember, I talked about the Bible is written with a lot of descriptives and prescriptives. The Old Testament is primarily descriptive. It describes what they did. If there are prescriptions in the Old Testament, they're brought forward by the mentioning of them by Jesus, the apostles, and the writers of the New Testament. So if there's something in the Old Testament that needs to come forward prescriptively as a do this, do that, it's mentioned. If it's not mentioned, it's descriptive and it just tells a story. Now, on the prescriptive side, some of the prescriptions in the New Testament were meant for the people the books were written to. Some of the prescriptions that are written for everybody that reads that book, even us 2,000 years later. And particularly, there's just a few, there's probably less than a half a dozen things that people will point to and say, this is salvational prescriptive. You got to do this to be saved. Okay? However, getting saved is only half the battle. Staying saved is the rest of it. Okay? So I may do the 5 checklist. I may do, okay, I'm God, I'm ready to go. But if I don't keep doing some of those things, it's goodbye, God, I give up on you. All right. Now, there are some people that believe that you once saved, always saved, and so forth. But the next, after you get over the hump of the 4, 5, 6 things you need to do to be saved, the next series of questions usually comes about staying saved. And again, there's a full range of, some people think that if you don't get your feet washed and a holy kiss at the front door, you're not going to heaven. All the way to the other people that said, once I've been saved, I can do whatever I want to do. I'm in. And there's literally people in all of that. So when I say salvational, that means getting saved. Now we're going to be talking about some things that may or may not be staying saved. Okay. And that's where we're back to discussing it and having opinions and talking about it. So anyway, all of these things tend to revolve around a question that most people answer. A question today is the concept of, do I have free will or do I not have free will? What is free will? Okay. What would you say free will is? Give me an example of free will. Yeah, in a word, choice. Choice. If you have a choice into what you're going to do, you got free will. If you don't have choice, you don't got free will. So, how many people feel like they have choice? How many people feel like they have no choice? Very good. This is definitely not a Calvinistic church. Instantly tell that one real quick. All right. So yeah, if you have free choice, why did God give us free choice? There's a lot of problems with that. I mean, He gave free choice to Adam and Eve, and look what they did with it. They messed it up for everybody since, and probably part of the physical world too got screwed up with it. All right. So why did God give us this free will? That's what we're going to look at for a minute here. That's a little video that kind of talks about why we have free will.
Is God good? If He is, why is there suffering and evil? Let's assume for the moment that God is all-powerful. This means that God can do anything that is logically possible. So He can create galaxies and subatomic particles and rainforests and you. But God cannot do what is logically impossible. He cannot make a square circle or a one-ended stick. So can God make a rock so big that He can't lift it? No. So what if, when God created human beings, He wanted them to be free? Freedom's a good thing, but if humans are to be free, they cannot be forced to obey God, because freedom without choice is like a square circle. It's a logical contradiction. No choice, no freedom. God didn't want robots. He wanted real people. The first humans endowed with the awesome power of free choice abused their freedom. The tragic consequences of their bad choice and our bad choices ripple across the world. God is responsible for the fact of freedom, but humans are responsible for their acts of freedom. But let's remember, we don't suffer alone. God will put an end to suffering and evil. And God became a man to suffer with us. God is good, and He wants real people like you to know Him. But the free choice is yours.
All right. Why did God give us free will? Bingo. Bingo. I think I've used this example a couple times over the course of the course. Uh, Ladies, have you ever had somebody come on you real hard, really wanted to, win you over? In fact, they were a pain. They just wouldn't give up. Can they force you to love them? No, no. Love only works, and particularly agape love. Remember, agape love, the godly love, the love that loves other person's outcomes more so than your own. So, agape love. In order to get agape love, you must be coming from free choice. It's something you've got to have the freedom to do. And the only way that God will ever know that we want to spend eternity with Him is through that free choice. And we do that by the salvational things. Okay? If we didn't have free choice, how could He possibly know if we wanted to? How could He possibly know as we're being baptized that our heart is right? Well, I believe that God can actually read that heart. And that also solves a lot of the baptism problems. To have to be baptized again or stuff like that is because God can actually read that heart going into the water, and He knows that to the best of your ability at that time, you really do love Him and want to serve Him and be His children. Okay?
We have no choice. If God didn't give us a choice, He would not be love. He would be a dictator.
Exactly. Yeah, he'd be a robot master.
That's no way. God is love.
Yeah.
Well, He can't be love if He is making us do something.
And God being love, remember now, God, the triune, the Trinity, the God that is love, And it says several times, God is love. Not does love, likes love, sometimes shows love. God is love. AMA, the verb to be. He is love. It's one of the characteristics that he is built with, and nothing can change that. Okay? So when we see God, we are seeing love. He is love. Okay?
God is always right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm omniscient, omnipotent. God being love, I just lost my thought. The Trinity. Why a Trinity? Can a single monotheistic God be love? What do you need to love someone?
Someone to
The
love.
someone. Yeah. Okay. So he needed at least someone else, and thus Jesus, to love. The two of them share love. They are multi gods. They're multi persons in the same multi, yeah, Trinity thing. Um, the three persons in one entity. Okay, so that they can love. They need each other to love, so that they can be physically loved. I'm getting off on a tangent. All right. So, what is free will? In a word, choice. All right. Why did he give us free will? So that we could love him. We could truly love him, and he could know it. What's the first commandment? There you go. And if you're going to be loving him with all your heart, and all your mind, and all your strength, and all your soul, then you're doing agape love. And he can see that, and he can see that in your heart, and therefore he knows you're serious. Come on down. All right. So, by the way, I have some real questions. This is the kind of questions that we're getting into now that bother people today. This is the part of that doesn't make a church split, but it kind of makes you not want to sit over there. I don't like what that person thinks, type of thing. It makes us uneasy. In fact, an awful lot of the time, we don't even think about this because it hurts. But there actually are answers that you can look at. How does prophecy work? Anybody want to tell me how prophecy works? What is prophecy? Yep, that's exactly it, foretelling. Seeing something in the future and knowing it as a fact in the future when the rest of us hadn't gotten there yet. You hadn't either. So somehow you're getting information about what's ahead of us. That's prophecy. Um, but if he knows what I will do I really have free will? How many times have you heard people in the church say, he knows what you're going to be doing tomorrow. And he knew that. He knew you'd do that. Well, now, wait a minute. If he knows what I'm going to do, if he has the ability to prophesy, which is, see, something hasn't happened yet, do I have free will to do it? If you don't understand some basics of physics, of time, and how you create universes, that's a hard question to answer.
Of that is with those of us that have children, especially teenagers. You know what that teenager is going to do. You're not making them do it.
Yeah.
But you know what those teenagers, or even small children.
But not with certainty. But not with certainty.
Yeah.
With high probability. Okay.
That's
But not with certainty. That's when you take the next step to omniscience,
right.
Which is certainty. Yeah. All right. We'll get there. Will my prayers really change anything? I've heard that question a lot. And I've also heard that question avoided a lot in church. If the fervent prayer of a righteous man avails much, what happens to his prayeree that he's praying for? Says, hey, I have been righteous all week. I'm tired of it. My fervency is shutting down for a couple hours. I ain't praying. Does that mean their prayee is in deep trouble? Hard question to answer. I mean, logically, you can't just jump to the answer. Not just if in fact I don't have free will, then can I pray to change something? Can I pray for a change of a choice that I don't have? So this is where it starts getting difficult. You see why these questions are not always answered in church. How does God harden a heart? There's several references in the Bible to the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh had his heart hardened 10 times. How do you harden the heart of a person with free will? No answers popping up out there. All right. And why does he let innocent little children die? We just had that thing on the film. Suffering, death of little children. How can you possibly be a loving God that knows everything and let little children that are totally innocent die for things that they have nothing, no control over? Have you ever heard this question before? When was the last time you got a good answer? Hang around. All right, so these are the things we're going to talk about because it's about time. We're going to get a little technical, we're going to get a little philosophical, a little physics, but it's all about time. We'll come back to those hard questions. Time. What we're living in right now is called Type A time, right? Series A time, and it's tense time. It means past, present, and future. Past tense, present tense, future tense. And our time is tensed, and there ain't anything we can do about it. I can know what's happening right now. I can know what happened yesterday. I can't know a darn thing about what's going to happen tomorrow with certainty. I can't do it. I ain't got the physical, mentally, it's just not there. I can't do it. And I haven't found anybody yet that had a time machine to go backwards, except in science fiction novels. All right, so that's Type A time, and we are in the middle of it, and it totally controls the way we look at everything. You can't naturally say 2 or 3 sentences about any topic without referencing something that has to do with time. Can't do it. All right? It's impossible. Oh, wait, impossible? That's a time tense. It's talking about transitions before and after change. Change by the time. Change requires a change in time to be change, because you've got to see it then and see it again to know it's changed. It's time. We cannot get away from it. We're living in time. The other type of time is called Type B or B series, and it has to do not with past, present, and future. It has to do with existence or not existence. If you're into math, that's backwards E means existence. Exist or not exist. Okay? If something exists, I can define it such that it can only point to that thing. Here it is. Okay. I always use this example. This is my red plastic covered Swiss Army knife. Okay. It's a little, I think, 11 blade Swiss Army knife. Okay. And I can describe this thing now so carefully that the only thing it could be is what I just described it as. This is not my Swiss Army knife. Okay. This is something else. This is my keys. And my keys are not like the knife and the knife. So if I define them properly, I can define them so uniquely, that's all it could possibly be. And that description of that unique item, such that it can only be one thing, is jumping ahead, is called a truth statement, but we're going to get into that. How do you know when things change? Back in 1870, I think, a guy by the name of Ed Muybridge was trying to settle a bet that a couple of fancy folks in New York were doing. Does a horse, when cantering, all 4 feet leave the ground ever? Like when a horse walks, it's one at a time. Only one comes up. When they trot, 2 come up. When they canter or gallop, do all 4 come off the ground? And so this Muybridge guy, who was a photographer by trade, decided, I'm going to take a series of pictures and see if I can get a picture of them off the ground. He was going to take a changing event and slice it up into time slices. And by looking at individual slices over time, I can tell whether or not any of those slices of time a horse is ought to feed. So he takes these pictures, and here's his pictures. It takes like 14 or 15 pictures, and when you start playing these pictures one after another, guess what happens? The horse does come up off the ground, unless he proved the bet. But more importantly, he essentially invented video. He essentially invented the movie camera. Everybody was taking pictures, but nobody was taking movies until after this guy. When I first started watching television, the little with the television that was that big and the cabinet that was that big, the refresh rate was 30 frames per second. 30 frames per second. And the reason it was 30 frames per second is because the human eye brain combination has a refresh rate of about 30 frames per second, depending on how much motion occurs between each frame. Anything faster than 30 frames a second, you didn't see it. It appears to be a continuous, smooth motion, just like that horse ran. All right. So at 30 frames per second, I can't tell the difference between a series of time slices and a motion. Nowadays, you go out and you buy a LCD, it's 60 frames per second normally. And if you want to go for HD TV, you get 120 frames per second, the refresh rate on the television screen. So we are well above what our eyes are capable of, somewhere around 20 to 30 frames per second. But each of those frames is, in fact, a description just like that of my knife. It is a unique picture of something exactly at some point in time, okay? And we're experiencing that right now. You're seeing me stand up here and waving my arms around. I'm seeing you guys sit back there. As you move, as you nod off, take a nap, I can see that. And these are different time slices. And if I want to know what happened at 59:23 seconds before 7, I can go back to that slice and say, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, she had her hand up and I was doing this, and I can get those slices. And I can see what was in existence, right? The classroom, the people, me, everything else existed for that brief moment exactly like I describe it. Okay, so we're looking at time slices. We're looking at type B time. All right, type B time. So type B time is not tensed. Okay, it is a statement of existence, and here's what everything existed looks like. All right, truth statements. A truth statement. A truth statement is one of these descriptions of something at a slice of time such that it existed just like it said. Here's an example of one. On Tuesday, March 20th, 1950, at 5:35 a.m., in the Southside Hospital, Bayshore, New York, Marion Rathkamp gives birth to a son named Scott. That is a true statement. I can't attest to it, but I believe my mother when she told me that. Okay? So that's a true statement that says something that happened on March 20th, 1950. Is that statement true for March 20th, 1950? I'm assuming my mother's correct. Yeah, it's true. Was it true for March 20th, 1951? Yeah. That what isn't
Yeah.
is it true today?
Yeah.
74 and a couple of days later. Okay. Yeah, it's still true. Here's what you got to get your head around. Was that true on February 20th, 1950? Yes. Yes. When you're looking at type B time is a collection of frames, of slices of time. And if it's true, that slice is true everywhere for everybody all the time. Even before we see it, who are stuck in type A time. I drove through that. I came through that process. All right. I hit the floor at that process. Okay. But it was actually true even before I did. And it's still true. The basis is that a true statement is true for all persons, all places, and all times. We can only experience the tense time of now and future. I can wait a little while and the future happens and becomes now. I'm really kind of just used to present. I gotta wait till present gets there. But I cannot, true statement, backwards. I am in the present and I remember existing in the past, but I do not know the future. I gotta wait for it to get there before it becomes present, and then I can know it. So when you're living in type A time, which we are, you can know truth statements back then up to now, but you can only surmise what that teenager is going to do. Now, you may have very good predictive abilities. You may get to 95% or better, but you cannot know with certainty. A car can come along and wipe that kid off the earth before he had a chance to do it. You just don't know. Okay? We are living in type A time. Okay? Now, she acted with free will. All right? She acted with free will. She did everything that was required. You know, she knew my dad 9 months ahead of time and so forth and so on. My mother knew all of this stuff, and she did these things of free will. She hurt. She went to the hospital. The doctor says, breathe hard and push. She did. You know, here I come. All right. But she did this all with free will. In fact, any true statement that is true for all people, all places, all times, is true for everybody, then we know that free will, if human beings are doing them, it had free will. All right? Well, we're not quite there yet. It's going to take a while to get our eyes around and ears around the concept of something happening, not yet, but we do it with free will, even though we hadn't gotten there yet. See what I mean? It's going to, if you haven't taken your aspirin, you might want to take some now. All right, all right. She acted with free will, and we acted with free will, okay? In fact, we will probably act with free will 20 minutes from now or thereabouts when the bell rings and we leave and go home. Okay, it's going to be free will, but we ain't there yet. But it's true for everybody all the time. So we can know past and present true statements. God knows all true statements. God is the only one that we can rub shoulders with that is currently living in type B time. Type B time. So basically, God is living in type B time. He has in front of us this, use this example. Okay, let me try to give you an example. How many people here are old enough to remember libraries with card catalogs? Yay, card catalog. We used to go into a library and they had this case and there was like 97 dozen drawers and you slide that cabinet drawer out, be like this wide and this high and 9 feet long. You pull that drawer out and every book was in the, I was into science. So I'd go to the 500 drawer and I'd find the books I want. And then I get into history. So I go over to the 900 drawer and I go and find the books that I want. Okay. Literally, that was a slice of the library in an order called Dewey Decimal. And that's where you found the book. Okay. Now imagine our life. Imagine our life as a card in a card carrier. So we pull that drawer out, and the first card is, yeah, okay, I just hit the ground. And my last card is the day I pass on to the great beyond. And in between those, every one of those cards, there is a card for what existed in my life, probably somewhere around 30 times per second. That's a lot of cards, okay? That's a lot of cards. But I did every one of those cards by free will. And if God created me and knew me, guess what? He created my card catalog before I even got there. So yeah, he knew what I was going to do, but he knew it because I had free will to do it. It's starting to get painful yet? Okay, all right. Now, go ahead.
What I've always kind of said is that God knows every decision we can make in our lives.
Thank you.
And he knows which way either decision will lead us. Now, he ultimately knows where we will end up, but he doesn't force us down that path. He knows, all right, tonight, Michael has a choice to do this or this. If he does this, it takes him down this path.
Because you're answering that question, I'm going to use you as an example now. And because you're perfectly right. It's called middle knowledge. The rest of the night tonight and all of next Wednesday, we'll be talking about middle knowledge. Let's look at Mike's card catalog drawer, big long drawer. And we go down to the point where he's sitting in class right now. Okay. Or rather, he walks in the door in class. And here's the card. And he walks, and I pull the card. Mike walks into the card and goes to sit in his seat at the back of the room. But somebody's there. Somebody is sitting in Mike's seat. Well, that just means that now my card catalog just shifted over and I have a couple other possibilities. Mike can say, that's my seat, please. Can I get in there? And they move, he sits down, and we go back into the regular draw again, and away we go. Or he can say, give them a real stern look and offer to readjust their face if they don't move. Okay? Now, do we need a card for that one? No, we don't. Why? Because it's logically impossible. We know Mike. Mike is not going to pop someone off because he's sitting in the chair. He'll go sit somewhere else, okay? Which is the third card over here. He goes and sits somewhere else, and guess what? He hears the same stuff as everybody else does. He's 2 chairs over. It doesn't matter. So now we're back into the main draw again. But in the meanwhile, we had a little divergent draw. And in that divergent, we had 2 possible choices, okay? Actually, we had 3. But 2 of the choices, the guy did move and he did sit down, or I went to another chair. Those we know are logically possible. Mike popped off and flattened the guy, took his chair? No. That is a logical impossibility. So I don't need another draw for that one. God knows what he will do even before he does it, and he knows that I need 3 cards for Mike. I don't need 4. I only need 3. And then I get back on again. Does that help any? It's not easy, I understand that, but anyway. So, God has a goal. God has a goal. We know where he's headed. We know where he wants to achieve at the end of all this. He has a goal. In fact, the 2 slides that I can't find, I missed, talked about God's goal and gave 8 different Bible verses as to why God has a goal. And if you want, I can go back and find them if we have time. But anyway, so God has a goal. If God has a goal and he's powerful enough to know it and powerful enough to make it happen, okay, and it can actually create a world in which it does happen, then he can literally look ahead and say, someone's in Mike's seat. I know Mike. I really do. I know Mike with certainty. I am omniscient, I am omnipresent, and I am omnipotent as God. So I can make it happen. I can create the environment in which I know he's going to choose. If he's going to choose, he's going to slide over 3 seats and sit down and just not make a big stink. Okay? So I can go ahead and choose to create the world in which Mike comes in, sees someone sitting in the seat, and without making a stink, he just sits 3 seats over. And then we're back into the main tray again. So Mike sat in that 3rd seat over with free will or not? Free will. He had free will. He had 2 other choices. One we know he didn't take and one we know he could take it. But he had 3 other choices. And by free will, he chose the slide 3. And God knew it. And when God created that particular scenario many, many, many years ago, and he was looking down Mike's card catalog box, he went here, uh-oh, here's a problem. This card, no, I don't like that. I'm going to jump over to this tray, go to this tray, and then back again. And that's the one I'm going to create. I'm going to create the one where Mike just slides over 3 seats. That make sense?
No,
Why?
because you just said the word create. He's going to create that.
That's tomorrow. I mean, next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we would create the universe. You got to wait a whole week for the creation.
No. You said in your statement just then about the card catalog
Yeah.
and Mike,
Yeah.
that God created that move.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. No, he didn't create that move. First of all, was the earth created before Mike got into the room? Yes. Either 6,000 or 13 billion years, whatever you believe. He created it before Mike got into the room. And he knew where Mike was going to go. So he literally had to create the universe in which on this Wednesday, he'd come to this room and find a seat taken or not taken. And so he created the universe doing what he knew Mike would do under free will. It's like if you watch football and you're at work, so you tape the game, okay? And then you go home and watch the game. And the guy starts to do something stupid, and you're yelling at this television, no, don't do that, do that. Oh, he did that. Lost the game, okay? But the guy did that with free will. And no matter how much you scream at that TV, you're not going to change it. But he did it with free will. So that's how someone could create something ahead of time. Obviously, we can do a videotape. We can change, record on television. Well, guess what? God lives in type B time. What has he got? Everybody's card catalog tray. Everybody who had a tray 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago, 20 years ago, right now, today, 100 years from now, 1,000 years, he's got a lot of catalog trays. We go in the library, it's this wide. This is big. And he's got to have the ability to look at each one of those trays and decide when he has to jump out and back in again.
Now, wait, you're saying he's deciding when they're going to jump out and jump back in. I'm not following that.
All right, so you're headed out to a restaurant. You've got a choice, okay? Are we going to eat at this place or are we going to eat at that place? You have a choice, okay? You made that choice. We're going to go here. So you, under free will, made that choice.
You're saying God knows what choice I'm going to make.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's called middle
I understand
knowledge.
that.
Middle knowledge. What
It's
Mike just
just
said.
the way you're saying it makes it.
I have a hard time explaining it. That's what I said. Everybody bring their aspirin? All right. All right. Well, what that means, well, let's look at the implications of that. You've seen these chess playing computers? Deep Blue is one of them. A chessboard, 8 by 8, 32 pieces. The first move, there's 20 possibilities. All right. You can move 8 pawns forward 1, move 8 pawns forward 2, move 2 knights forward 3, left, right, left, and forward, left, and so forth. You've got essentially 20 moves that you could possibly make. And every single one of those moves you can make with free will. There's no rules in the world that says you can't move this pawn 2 forward. Always free will. Now, the next move, you have 400 possibilities. 400 possibilities on the second move. On the third move, you now are up to 200,000. 200,000 different possibilities you could have moved through free will. Okay? And then on the fifth move, 1, 2, 3. On the fourth one, you're up to 120 million. So in 4 moves, you have a literal 120 million possibilities that you can go through with free will. A grandmaster computer, grandmaster like Kasparovsky, the computer, the Deep Blue computer makes 8 moves. That means, excuse me, to make 8 moves. Up here we got 4 moves, right? 20, 400, 200, 1 million. Yeah, 4 moves. These Deep Blue computers and stuff will do in 8 moves. And Deep Blue, it took them 3 minutes to do it on the computer. They will make 50 million choices. Okay? Which means they're doing 8 moves ahead and asking the question of the 50 million possibilities, what is the best possible route to get me to win the game? You don't pick the one when you move your king out in the middle of the thing and leave him unguarded. So we discard that choice because we know it doesn't make sense. We start moving things around to guard the queen and the king and so forth and so on when you're playing chess. So there are decisions being made at each point. Will this get me to my goal? Does God have a goal? I haven't seen the goal written down in black and white, but I suspect the goal probably sounds something like get the most people to join me in heaven after so many periods of time. The highest probability. And I don't expect everybody to come. And if you look around us right now, we're not all going. Right? If you look at the Pew studies that I look at on the computer, of the people that are actually completely okay with the 5 salvationals and are reasonably accomplished on the stay salvationals, such that grace can cover you, we're looking at about 5 to maybe 7% of everybody in the United States today. Somewhere, say 5 to 10%. The road to the damnation is wide, and very few find it. Okay?
They do find it.
Well, they find the big road. They find the big road, yeah. Yeah, they find the big gate. Yep. Anyway. So now, if I'm going to play God, I've got to go through and start looking at lots of alternatives. But I know what Mike is going to do when he sits down. I'm God. I am so smart. I am so intelligent that I actually know Mike so well that I can read his heart. And I know he will not slap darn the guy upside the face to get his seat back. So I won't pick that choice. I'm going to pick the one where he slides 3 to the right and sits down. All right? Because I'm God, I can do that. But now think about that. If we're making time slices at the rate of, say, 30 or 20 or 30 a second. And each one of those time slices is unique. And then I've got to decide the possibility of each one causing something, the next one to happen, the next one to happen, the next one to happen. We're talking a major chess game. But God is so great that he can pull it off. He can actually design your card catalog tray and set up a universe that's going to start that catalog tray 6,000 years later. But he knew what everybody was going to do to that point so that you could start it and do what you want to do with free will. It is mind-boggling. I can't even get my head around it. I have tried for 30 years to understand this stuff, and I still cannot conceive of it. I can describe it. I can tell you what it looks like, but I honestly cannot get my head around and say, oh, yeah, it's like this. It's like, wow, this God is really way over my head. All right. Every move is under free will. We must use stochastic methods. God is deterministic. This is just a fancy mathematical term. Stochastic means by statistics, using random things happening. Okay, so if I flip 4 pennies in the air, I'm going to get 1 head, 3 tails, 2 heads, 2 tails, 3 tails, 1 head, and so 4 in each. Those are different probabilities of occurrence. So I'm going to have a stochastic distribution from all tails to all heads, and you can have a little bell curve. That's called stochastic mathematics. God is deterministic. Deterministic says, I know it. Do I know anything deterministic? Oh, I know that 2 plus 2 is 4. How'd you know that? We defined it that way. Okay? About the only place I can be deterministic are on facts. Just a little side note. How many kinds of facts are there? When you watch the evening news and someone says, well, the fact of the matter is, when I hear the fact of the matter is, I know I'm about to get an opinion. Okay? There are really only like 3 sources of facts. There are facts by definition. 12 in a dozen, 3 feet in the yard. Okay, these are facts. Why? Because we define it that way. 3 plus 3 is 6, and so forth and so on. 2 plus 2 is 4, even for extremely large values of 2. It's 2, not 5. Okay, so we know that by definition. We also know that by commonly observed and agreed upon observation. Okay, if all of us here in this room saw me drop that, okay, they saw it here and they saw it down there. We all agree on the definition of what happened. He dropped the remote. We all saw it actually happen. For us, that's a fact. I can actually take that observation as a fact, and I can report it as a fact, and I can deal with it mathematically as a fact. Okay? If Nancy was outside that door while I did that, she saw it up here, she left the room, came back in, saw it down there, and then every single one in here said, he just dropped that. Is that a fact for her? Nope. It's an opinion. Because while she was out there, I said, hey, whatever she comes back in, tell them I dropped it. And being the obedient folks you are, you all immediately popped up and said, no, you just dropped that. And or didn't drop it. You see what I'm saying? I can convince you to lie. And for her, it's not a fact. That's why it's commonly observed. You got to be there, actually see it. Okay. And you have to see the same thing. You ever seen that thing where you show a ball that's black on one side, and the other side's white, depending on which side you're looking at? Okay. One side of the apple is nice and pristine, the other side is full of worms and eaten. Okay. So we all have to see the same thing. We have to agree what the thing is. That's the third kind of fact. The second kind of fact. The third kind of fact that is most likely accepted throughout the scientific world is called the scientific method, where you create a hypothesis and you generate a series of a definition of it and test it, and you collect the results and you analyze it and you compare it. It's just the thing we learned back in high school, the scientific method. Okay, and if you go through and produce something and here's the result and you publish it, even your worst enemy, the guy that hates you, if he did the same thing, he's going to get the same answer. Okay, it's going to happen. So those are the only 3 sorts of facts, and everything else is what? Opinions. All right, that was a little rabbit hole. Sorry about that. So we use stochastic methods. The only time we can use deterministic methods is if we're dealing with the three basic facts. God, however, can use deterministic everything all the time because omniscient, omniscient, all knowing. Omniscient means all knowing. And when and where can he do it? Omnipresent. That means basically anywhere, any when. In type B time, remember now, he's got access to card catalogs that you ain't lived through yet. So he can actually go back there and say, yep, that's true. Scott was born on March 20th, 1950, and he can tell you that in 1949. Because it's true. He's got the cards right there. It's going to happen. And I got there by free will. Or mom did. I went for the ride. All right. So here it is. Creation. God's three knowledges. Right now, almost everybody in the church world will agree that God has two knowledges that are omniscient. He knows everything in the past, and he knows the end state for everything. Jesus even tells you, I don't know. Only my Father knows when this is going to happen and what it's going to look like. And he does. I mean, he inspired the Holy Spirit to come down here and describe it to us. Now, granted, we couldn't understand actually what it looks like, but he told it to us in words that we might could begin to understand. A city with, 18 stadia wide and long and high, and gold streets and clear glass, gold this and that, and jewels and everything. He described it for us in the best words that we can understand. He knows what it's going to look like. Okay. So God has agreed by pretty much everybody. He has knowledge of everything that's been, and he has knowledge of the end state, what it's all going to look like. How are you going to get from the beginning to the end state and give everybody a choice that they're going to take on the way, but give them free will to take it at the same time? So God's natural knowledge is all possible words and truth statements. His middle knowledge is what every possible free will creature will do under all possible circumstances. And that his free will is his knowledge of all events and outcomes in the scenario he chose to create. Remember, he had a goal, and he chose to create that goal called the universe, and we're in it, and it's going to end someday. And what it looks like when it ends, he knows. We don't know it yet, but he does. And we're all going to get there, one way or another, up or down, but we're going to be getting there by free will. If I want to follow him, I'll join with him. If I want to avoid him my entire life, I don't want anything to do with Jesus. Why would somebody who didn't want anything to do with Jesus want to go to heaven? That's living with him all the time. God is not going to force someone to go to heaven. He won't. We have free will. So we are freely living the life he chose for us. In the next 3 minutes, 4 minutes, let's look at those questions again. These are the questions we started with. What is free will? All right, what's the one word for free will? And why did he give us free will? So we can love him, so that we can form this relationship with him, so that we can join him in his natural love. How does prophecy work? It's real simple. You go to the drawer, you slide the drawer, pull the card up. Oh, this is what it's going to look like. Put it back. And you got it. Prophecy is one of the easiest things going. All you need is a good card catalog in heaven. If he knows what I will do, then I really have free will? Because I got there on free will, even though I didn't realize that's what I was going to choose. But I got there on my own free will. Okay? So if he knows what I will do I really have free will? Yes. You had free will before you did it. In fact, you had free will before you existed to do what you did. See why I tell you I need to bring aspirin to these? Anybody head exploding yet? Okay, all right. will my prayers really change anything? How can he say that the fervent prayer of a righteous man will cure things to a greater prevail? Right? Because we chose to pray back before we're now sitting down getting ready to pray. With free will, we came to the point that we really wanted this to happen. We wanted this person to get well. We wanted this person to get home safely. We really wanted that. And we really wanted it then, even before we did it. Because when we finally got there, we really wanted it. And God could see our heart, and he could see that, yes, they really did want it. I'm going to grant it. So he goes ahead and grants it. But wait a minute. How can he grant something the person's not even there yet? Well, he knew you were going to pray. And he knew you were going to do it. And he knew that it would solve the problem. So he went ahead and chose to create the scenario of the other person's card catalog tray. When he got down there, he chose the one where he's cured. And I love looking at people's faces. How does God harden a heart? How did God harden Pharaoh's heart? Who's to say that Pharaoh was not ready to cave on the frogs? Hey, frog, I've had enough frog. I don't like frogs. Okay, take your people and leave. He could have wanted to do that. We don't know that. But he hardened his head. What? Exactly. He had the opportunity, the free will to say, I don't care, frogs, send me locusts. Toss me some bugs. Give me a little bit of boils, all the way to the point, kill my firstborn, okay? We don't know what his choices would have done, but God does. And God chose to create the Egypt at that particular time when Moses was talking with him. Well, I want to choose the one to create in which Pharaoh says, I'm going to be hard, and I'm going to be hard, and I'm going to be hard. So basically, he works his way and chooses the route for Pharaoh that says his heart was hard. Now, did God harden his heart? Well, no. Pharaoh hardened his heart 10 times with free will, and God chose to create that scenario. It's really easy to harden a heart. Oh, I hate this one. Why does he let little innocent children die? We know that you've got to be like these children in order to go to heaven. You've got to be below the age of accountability. Your heart has to be doing, if you're doing something wrong, you have to not understand it yet in order to be saved. And that should certainly qualify for little children. And how could he possibly decide whether or not to let the child die or choose a different route for that child that doesn't die? Back to the card catalog, he slides that card catalog out and he looks at all the possible choices and finds out that given free will choice, that child wouldn't choose him. That child is going to go to hell. That child's going to turn out rotten. But if I take him now, he can live with me in eternity. And he makes the best choice for that little child. I'm not saying that's what he does, but according to our little discussion, it's possible.
Is that what the Bible says? He had a little child come up to him, and a little child. Like reading the Bible like that.
Yeah. I'm not, what you
He and people come unto him as a child.
we come unto him with the mind, the way a child works. Yeah, it's called innocence, or below the age of accountability. The innocence of a child. Yeah, they do stupid stuff, but they're still innocent because they don't know any better. Yeah. Oh, I'm running out of time. Okay. But anyway, is there a way that God can be a loving God that wants all persons to come with him and is justice? Yeah, he can basically take a child that isn't going to go well and take him now while he still can go well. Possibility. It's all about time. Next week, we'll talk about how this concept of time came about and how it affects the church today. And I'm 2 minutes over.
Well, we don't know. I mean, there's that situation can change other situations.
Yes, but he's taken that situation into account when he created them. He doesn't make the decision when they die. He created the situation that when they die, it will go. But he did that at the beginning of time. Okay, thank you for coming. See you next week.